Hello everyone, this is Michelle Cottle, Student Success Coordinator, and I'm recording this PowerPoint presentation for students who are moving from year 2 into year 3, and this is intended to help you with your module selection, so to give you a bit of information about the modules coming up. So yes, I go through some of the procedures, and I'll actually spend most of the time talking about the modules themselves. And the other place that you can find information about the modules is on the BA Early Childhood Studies Programme Moodle site, where you'll find a folder which has got past handbooks in it, past module handbooks. So what I recommend that you do is that you have a look at those handbooks, and if you've got specific questions about modules, then it will identify the current module convener who will be able to answer those questions, because I'll be able to give you an overview of some of the modules, but of course the module convener and the tutors who teach on that module will have more information about it. But so I'm just going to give you a kind of sense of what's coming up, a starting point, if you like. So yes, you should have received an email from Registry which explains the steps that you need to follow in order to register for next year. And as it says here, there are some students that are exempt from part of the process. This is all explained in the email, and there are different versions of the email for different groups. So for example, if you have interrupted or have been suspended or have been involved in study abroad, which is not likely probably this year due to COVID-19. But you should have information about your particular circumstances. If you've got any questions about that, then you can contact Jennifer, our program administrator, to ask her questions or to ask for another copy of this email. But yes, module selection is the first step in registering for next year. So that's the part that I'm focusing on. And there's a separate PowerPoint, which is in the same place as this one on the BA Early Childhood Studies Programme Moodle site, which focuses on the more technical aspects, how you use the system, how you select your modules. You've done this before, of course. You did this when you moved into year 2. So you're probably familiar with these processes, but have a look at the PowerPoint anyway to see if there have been any changes since your last experience with the system. So yes, online enrollment is via the student allocator system, which is accessible through the student portal. And I've got a link here on this PowerPoint. Obviously, you know where the student portal is. Next slide. Sorry, I've got two different screens and I'm just making sure I've got the right one in front of me. So Allocator opens as I record this next week, so midday on the 19th of May, and it closes. I haven't had confirmation of this, so you may want to double check it, but this is when I believe it will be closing, which is Friday the 18th of June. Again, you can talk about you can direct any inquiries to Jennifer if you're concerned about this. So you've got all of that time to select your modules, and any students who do not complete the option process, because obviously you've got some core modules, I'll talk about those in a moment, and then you have different options to choose from. If you don't choose those options, your modules will be allocated to you. So it's quite important, obviously, to make your choices so you get the modules you want. Ooh. If you have any queries about using the allocator system, you can have a look for this email, and it gives you instructions. But as I've also said, that's in the PowerPoint, which is on the program Moodle site together with this PowerPoint. So don't email tutors or admin about any difficulties with the allocator system itself. You use the system to record your issues. But you know, if it's questions about dates that the system closes or the modules themselves, then you can talk to us tutors and to Jennifer as program administrator. So first thing you need to do is, well, listen to the rest of this PowerPoint presentation and also have a look at the module handbooks and think about which modules you want to take. So there's module descriptions, which are the sort of overviews, if you like, of the modules, which are included on this PowerPoint. And of course, they're the same as the program details, which are on the student portal. But yeah, the handbooks will give you more information. How many credits do you need to do? Well, hopefully you know this already, but just in case you don't, if you're a full-time student, you need to make sure that you've registered for at least 120 credits in a year. And if you're part-time, you shouldn't have more than 80 credits. If you're a single honours student, then these are your required modules, the modules that you have to register for. So all of you will be doing professionalism and advocacy, which I believe is in the autumn, and all of you will be doing the early childhood dissertation, 40 credit dissertation. Early childhood studies graduate practitioner competency students, I've already spoken to you individually, this is quite a small group, about your requirements for next year. So I won't talk about them as part of this whole presentation any more than just mentioning you right now. But if you're not sure of which module you need to take, then do consult me or Sigrid or Clara. If you're a combined honours student, then your compulsory module is either the Early Childhood Studies dissertation or the Education Studies dissertation. So have a look at the module information for both of those and think about whether you want to major, if you like, in Early Childhood Studies or in Education Studies. And think about which one where you want to develop your specialist interests, I guess. So pathways, thinking ahead. You're thinking now about which modules to choose. You're thinking about your degree as a whole. You need to think about anything that you're particularly interested in, an area where you might want to develop your particular career goals. So how will you develop and evidence a specialism when you graduate? So you're thinking about what you've enjoyed on the program, but also about where you want to go with your degree. And of course, your module choices act as a signifier. So yeah, I think that will become clearer as we move through the presentation. But of course, if you're not sure about any of your module choices, or if you're not sure about having a particular pathway, then you can, of course, talk to us. So in the first instance, we recommend that you contact your academic guidance tutor. If you're a part-time student, you might want advice specific to your part-time status. So you contact Clara. So first of all, professionalism and advocacy. Well, this is a module that I have been teaching on for the last few years and presumably will be teaching on again next year. And this is a module that really brings together different elements of the program, but really focuses on professional roles and also the very politically engaged nature of early childhood work. You may not think of yourself as somebody who's politically engaged or somebody who's an advocate, but this is what we're really going to be focusing on in this module. So it's all early childhood. Sorry, my phone's just rung. Sorry, Oop, stop it. The well-being of children is at the heart of the module, and of course you focused on that in a very holistic sense across the program. But in this module, we're going to be focusing on how to take that information forward, how to look at what's going on with policies relating to workforce development, for example, professionalization of the workforce, and thinking about how this shapes your understanding of your role and any areas that you might need to advocate for. At the moment, early childhood and early years services do not seem to be being prioritized by the government. So of course we're going to be focusing on that and focusing on the particular issues that you need to highlight in your professional roles going forward. And your assessment for that module is a patchwork text assessment, which you last engaged with in year one. So the patchwork text is a little bit like a portfolio. You've got lots of different tasks to complete, but the idea is that you work on a writing task each week, you bring that in, you share it with your fellow students, you discuss your writing, and you're improving it all the way through. So that is the focus for that module. Thinking and understanding. So this is very much focusing on psychological aspects, cognition, children's thinking and understanding, obviously, and how this is essential to the study of young children. So we are looking at lots of different theories of cognitive development and using these as a rationale for practice, for the importance of early childhood studies, really. And your assessment here, as you can see, is in two components, a glossary and an analytic commentary. Again, you've had experience, I think, with both of those elements, the analytic commentary, definitely. And you can read more about those in the module handbooks. If you've got questions, go to the module conveners who will have a more specialist understanding of this module. Leadership, partnership, and multidisciplinary teamwork. This is where we bring together two really key aspects of early childhood practice. So focusing on the key importance of parent partnership and also the key importance of your roles as leaders in the early years workforce, whether that's in a formal leadership role or a more informal sense. So we'll be focusing on different ways of thinking about leadership and looking at examining leadership in practice. In fact, the assessment, it says a portfolio here, but this is based around an interview with an early childhood leader, but you'll be focusing on something related to parent partnership, an aspect of parent partnership that leader focuses on in their practice. And as part of this, you're also looking at the ways that people work collaboratively with parents, but also with other professionals within a team. So that is the key focus of that module. And yeah, when you're thinking about parent partnership, but also issues of teamwork, it's thinking about those power dynamics, those power relationships, and how to develop productive working relationships or productive partnerships within a team that includes professionals and parents and children, of course. Unequal childhoods, global perspectives. In this module, you're looking at cultural, historical, and contemporary features of policies, institutions, agencies across the world. So you're taking a look at the bigger picture, focusing on babies, young children, and childhood. So you're really coming back to those issues that you started to look at in the Being a Professional module in year one. So thinking about anti-bias approaches and thinking about the inequalities, in society, and also representations of childhood across the world. So your assessment is again in two components. So part of it will be an essay and part of it will be an analytic commentary. So I recommend you go to the handbook to read more about that module and address any questions that you have to the module convener. The social world of babies and toddlers. So here it's very much focused. If you, I was talking earlier in the presentation about developing a specialist pathway. So if you are particularly interested in working with very, very young children, and babies, then this would be a good choice for you. So it's focusing on the principles and practice of listening and responding to children under 3. So again, you've got that same prioritization of the competency of the child, their social interactions, their attunement to each other, to other human beings, even before birth. and you're looking at the role of the adult, the relationships that adults form with children in the different social contexts that make up early years settings. And again, the democratic principles are emphasized, especially in relation to research and practice and the ethics involved. So, oh, I haven't put that. Oh, yes, it is up the top there. So this module has a single component, an essay or report, which is the assignment for that. So yes, again, as I've said with the other modules, have a look at the module handbook for more details there. Special and inclusive education. So this module identifies and examines current perspectives on disability, special educational needs, and inclusion theory, policy, and practice. So again, you're picking up on some of the issues that we first focused on in the Being a Professional module. And if you're thinking of your specific pathway through the program, then of course, if you're interested in working with children with special educational needs or disabilities, then this is the module for you. And as it says here, offers critical insight into the debates around educational provision for children and young people who have special educational needs and disabilities. And you're thinking about legislations and policies. You're thinking about this in relation to practice and experiences. And yes, you can see it's got some information about the methods of teaching and the sorts of things that you'll experience. But the assessment, as you can see here, is a presentation and an essay. Again, the handbook is on Moodle. And finally, but maybe I should have started with this, you will be doing your individual dissertation. So this is the early childhood dissertation, which is 40 credits. As you can see here, that's 7,000 words. And this is where you can, once again, develop that area of specialism, pick up on something that you are particularly interested in from the program, or it might be related to your career development plans. If you've carried out a placement, often students want to continue with something that they've examined as part of their placement, but it's where you can really take the program in a direction that you want to. So you're going to design and carry out an independent, ethically grounded investigation that arises from your interest. And this can be an empirical piece of research where you're perhaps doing observations or carrying out interviews or questionnaires, or it might be a more theoretical project, more desk-based research. So there are opportunities for those types of dissertation. And yes, as it says here, and I think I've already just said, but I'll say it again, this is about you developing your specialist knowledge and understanding through completing an extended piece of work. And you're going to have support all the way through it, peer review, formative assessments, and an individual tutor who will supervise you and work with you on this module, as well as the seminar tutors. So remember, if you are a combined student, you can't do both the early childhood studies and the education dissertation. You have to choose one of them. So this tells you a little bit about the education dissertation. But this is something where it would be best to go to your education tutors to talk to them because I'm not as familiar with the module as they are. So once again, you've got the opportunity to study a topic that relates to your course. So if your area of specialism relates more to the education studies side of your degree, then you're going to be choosing this module. So this synopsis here is very similar to the early childhood studies dissertation. So it would be best, if you're not sure about which one to choose, to talk about that with your academic guidance tutor or with a tutor from the program that you want to do, the program where you want to do the dissertation. So for those of you, this is for the early childhood studies dissertation students particularly. There may be some tasks for you to do for the education studies dissertation if you've selected that option, but I'm not sure of those. So make sure that you find out about that. Obviously, you'll have module briefings from the education studies team as well. So I'm sure they'll give you information there. But for the education studies dissertation, we encourage you to prepare over the summer. Of course, you've already begun the process because you have developed your research proposal, and it may be that you are moving forward with that into your dissertation. I believe you can change and do a different topic as well. But even if you do that, the research proposal and your research methods module will have provided you with a good grounding for your dissertation. There are some tasks for you to do that are on the Early Childhood Studies Programme Moodle site, because you will not be able to access the dissertation Moodle site until close to the beginning of next term. So have a look at the section on the Early Childhood Studies Programme Moodle site. And there's some task ones called Where to Begin, which has a handout, which essentially emphasizes the importance of reading and researching and thinking about what it is that you want to research, which angle you want to research. As it says on here, there's some different questions: what, why, how, where, when. So you're really starting to develop your ideas over this summer. And we recommend that you start to get your ideas down on the ethics form. So again, it can be developing the ideas from your research proposal module, but do keep your notes on the ethics form. You can keep notes elsewhere as well, but think of the ethics form as a working document. It doesn't have to be complete by the beginning of the academic year, but you are going to be asked to bring it in and discuss it in the initial sessions of the Early Childhood Studies dissertation module. And there will be an online questionnaire that you need to complete before the beginning of the term. It's really focusing you on what it is that you plan to focus on for your dissertation. And it's useful for us as part of the tutor allocation process, and to see just where you are in thinking about your research. So we ask you to complete that before term begins. I'm not sure of the deadline at the moment, but that will be on the questionnaire, and that questionnaire and all of the materials I'm discussing on this slide will be on the Early Childhood Studies Programme Moodle site at some point soon, and we will send you out an email when those things are there. So keep checking your Roehampton email over the summer. I've left this module for last on my slides because it's a new optional module, but only some of you will be eligible. So you need to have a look at the video. There's a link here to this video that's been produced by Peter Flew, Director of the School of Education, as he will be explaining the module, he'll be explaining the criteria, all of those things. So it's as I say, it's a very new module. It focuses on the role of higher level teaching assistant. So if you're interested in that, or I think you should all just have a look anyway to find out about this new module and see if you want to pick that as an option. So here is an at a glance. We've got the dissertation at the top. So for single honours, you have to do the Early Childhood Studies dissertation. For combined, you can pick Early Childhood Studies or Education dissertation. The Professionalism and Advocacy module is required for single honours, but combined honours students can pick it as an option. And there are the optional modules that I've just discussed, all here. I haven't really spoken about the individual study module because that is discretionary. So you would only do it in particular circumstances. For the Early Childhood Studies graduate practitioner competency students this year, you are selecting that. So as I said earlier in the recording, if you're unsure as a graduate competency student, if you're unsure of what you're doing, do talk to me or Sigrid. But yes, there are all the different modules, and you need to select which term you want to take your module in the allocator system. So we haven't assigned them to particular terms as yet. So you pick that when you go into the allocator system. I should just say as well, I'm not quite sure how that part will work this year because we haven't done it that way before, but that's what I've been asked to communicate to you. So yeah, so the last thing is if you want to talk about any of these things, as I've said on the module slides, obviously you could tell that I know some of the modules better than others because I teach on them. So please do go to the module handbooks on the program Moodle site, and also to the module conveners if you've got specific questions. But you can talk through your whole overview of your choices with your AGT. And if you're not sure who your AGT is, hopefully you are. There are lists on the program Moodle site. You can talk to Clara as program convener, of course. And if you've got questions about administration, then you can talk to Jennifer. And there are the email addresses for that. And I will stop there.